Hello everyone, welcome to Deepshikha's Academy. So along with our polity series, we have also started environment series. Environment plays a very important role for this UPSC examination. ठीक है, prelims में you have around 20 questions from environment and also जो Indian Forest Service है उसका एग्ज़ाम भी UPSC ही लेता है. फाइन. सो दैट इज़ वाई एनवायरनमेंट प्लेज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल एंड ये जो है स्टूडेंट्स का एक वीक पॉइंट रहता है बिकॉज एनवायरनमेंट के लिए देर आर नॉट मेनी सोर्सेज अवेलेबल इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ द बुक्स, the notes and also on internet. So that is why I have compiled these lectures for your benefit so that you can also study environment as well. बिकॉज पॉलिटी के साथ साथ आई वॉन्ट यू टू स्टडी ऑल दी अदर सब्जेक्ट्स जो कि इम्पॉर्टेंट है. ठीक है, सो विल कंटिन्यू विद द एनवायरनमेंट सीरीज. ठीक है, सो द सब्जेक्ट दैट वी हैव टू डील हियर इज एनवायरनमेंट, इकोलॉजी एंड बायोडाइवर्सिटी. ठीक है, सो हम इसको फ्रॉम द बेसिक विल लर्न अबाउट इट. ऑलराइट, सो सबसे पहले विल अंडरस्टैंड दैट व्हाट इज अ बायोस्फीयर. सो बायोस्फीयर से एवरीथिंग विल स्टार्ट ऑफ and then we will understand each and every term bit by bit. Alright, so what do you understand by a biosphere? Now from the word itself, bio plus sphere, right? So bio stands for life and sphere is for a globe. ठीक है, so on this globe that is earth, the areas which have life will be included in a biosphere. ठीक है, so what is the definition of a biosphere? These are those areas which have life. ठीक है, now we can understand it through this definition also, that earth is the only planet that is sustaining life forms, fine, and the space accommodating these life forms is called biosphere. All right, so we are starting off environment from the very basic terms. Okay, I will study these terms and then we will move on to all the other terms that are directly asked in the question paper. Now it is also called the global sum of all the ecosystems. Now ecosystem is also a term. So environment ko you should understand that while studying any subject, any term that is a keyword for you, okay, you should know the definition to that word. If I am talking about biosphere, you should know what is a biosphere. If I am talking about a biome, you should know what is a biome, an ecosystem. ठीक है, so all these areas in the environment, if we are talking, for example, if I am talking about habitat, you should know what is habitat. ठीक है, you should know all these things by definition, only then you will be able to understand what the question is asking you and how you are supposed to answer it. All right, now biosphere is, it is a global sum. ये sum है of all the ecosystems. We'll understand what is an ecosystem. उससे पहले हम समझते हैं कि सारे ecosystems को अगर हम मिला दें वो भी एक बायोस्फीयर ही फॉर्म करता है. ऑलराइट, बायोस्फीयर इज द पार्ट ऑफ अर्थ विच कंटेन्स लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स. सो एज आई मेंशन कि बायो मीन्स लाइफ, तो ऑल दैट सिस्टम, ऑल दैट एरिया दैट हैज़ लाइफ विल बी इंक्लूडेड इन अ बायोस्फीयर. तो ये हो गया बायोस्फीयर की सिंपल डेफिनेशन. फाइन, नाउ यू कैन सी दिस इन दिस डायग्राम ऑल्सो. इन दिस डायग्राम यू हैव अ वैरायटी ऑफ terms that are mentioned here. ठीक है, so you can see that first of all there is an individual mentioned, then there is population. अब उसी individual के there is a population, there is another term that is community. Community में you'll have all the other different species of animals, plants, they're interacting. When they are interacting you'll have an ecosystem, then there is a biome, then including all of these is a biosphere. So biosphere is the largest term in terms of when we are talking about the size. ठीक है, सो बायोस्फीयर की बात हम कर रहे हैं, तो बायोस्फीयर इज द लार्जेस्ट ऑफ ऑल. ठीक है, सो अभी हम बायोस्फीयर समझ रहे हैं, राइट. देन विल अंडरस्टैंड अबाउट द बायोम्स, व्हाट आर बायोम्स, देन विल टॉक अबाउट इकोसिस्टम्स. ठीक है, देन और स्मॉलर यूनिट क्या है, कम्युनिटी, उसको समझेंगे. देन व्हाट इज पॉपुलेशन, व्हाट इज इंडिविजुअल. फाइन, सो दिस इज वेयर द बायोस्फीयर इज प्लेस्ड. Now the biosphere, as we have mentioned, that it is the area of the earth where life is present. Fine. Now the next question is the life on this planet distributed uniformly, evenly? ठीक है, this is the question that is asked. ठीक है, कि biosphere जो है, you are saying that biosphere is where all the living organisms are present. So is it uniform, the presence of these animals? No, it is not uniform. All right, so there are extremes. ठीक है, extreme areas, for example the north and the south pole, ठीक है, the north and the south pole, they are extreme conditions, they are hostile conditions for the life to exist. Alright, so biosphere is absent at extreme locations like the north and the south poles. The highest mountains, they also have snow, ठीक है, there are not much grass, not much plants, ठीक है, on which the animals can live or the plants itself can live, ठीक है. The deepest oceans, fine, they also don't have much of the life forms. Alright, now some bacteria, some fungi, they are also present in these locations, ठीक है. Some of the areas which we are saying are hostile, some bacteria or fungi may be present there, but these are dormant life forms, they are not active, fine. So we don't consider them to be existing as an active life form. Alright, so these are dormant life forms which are present as such extreme locations, fine. Then living organisms are not uniformly distributed throughout the biosphere, it is also true, okay. They are not uniformly distributed because on earth there are some of the places which are very, very hot, okay, some are very cold. Now these are extreme areas, okay, they have extremes of temperatures. If you are talking about the cold temperatures, they are also to the extremes. If you are talking about hot temperature, that is also to the extremes. So at these locations, life forms are either absent or they are in very, very little amount, fine. Now there are areas like the polar regions, okay, these polar regions, they don't have much of the life forms. The other areas that have the maximum of life forms, or you can say the maximum of biodiversity, these are the rainforest areas, fine. You have the equatorial, the tropical rainforest. So the areas that have the maximum biodiversity are the tropical rainforest. Alright, they have the rich diversity of plants and animals, okay. They have around 50% of the global biodiversity. Alright, so this is how we understand that if we are talking about life on earth, okay, then we are talking about biosphere. Then we will understand that if we are talking about this life on earth, is it uniformly distributed on the earth? No, it is not uniformly distributed. So what are the areas where you have the maximum of this biodiversity or the presence of life? That is your tropical rainforest. And where you have the minimum is towards the polar regions, the colder regions. Alright, so now in a biosphere, we are saying that biosphere contains life forms. Now these life forms need energy to survive, they also need nutrients to make their food. Now from where this energy is provided to this life form? It comes from the sun. So ultimately the entire energy that flows in this biosphere, the form of lives that are sustained by this earth, who sustains it? The energy is provided by the sun only, fine. So the final energy that is coming to us, the energy with which I am talking, it is essentially, it is derived from the sun. So from the sun the plants make their food, they store that energy, and from plants it comes to the animals, fine, to the humans, we eat vegetables, right? So that energy that has been captured by these plants is transmitted to us, fine. So the same energy source. So what is the main ultimate source that is providing energy on this earth? It is the sun, fine. Then the next thing is nutrients. So the plants, the animals, they also need certain nutrients that are not coming from the sun, fine. So they are being supplied to them on earth itself, fine. What are these areas from where the nutrients are being supplied? It is the air, water and soil. So basically for the life to sustain on earth, the nutrients are provided by the air, soil and water. So if we see that from where the air is coming, it is the entire thing, the gases. From where it is coming, it is the atmosphere. If you talk about the land or the soil, that is the lithosphere. If you talk about the water, that is the hydrosphere. Alright, so you can say that biosphere is formed through the interaction of atmosphere, lithosphere and hydrosphere. Why we can say this? Because for the life to sustain on earth, they need atmosphere, they need lithosphere, they need the land, they also need a very essential ingredient, that is water. Alright, so if we talk about the atmosphere, alright, so the atmosphere is very wide. It has lots of layers. It has troposphere, stratosphere, there is mesosphere and thermosphere. So these are all layers of the atmosphere. They extend up to thousands of kilometers above the surface of the earth. Alright, but we are talking about the air or the gases that are essential for the survival of the plants and animals. These are present at around 10 to 15 kilometers from the surface of the earth. That is actually the troposphere layer. Alright, so what are these gases? For example, the plants need carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Animals need oxygen for respiration. Alright, so all these gases are being supplied from the atmosphere. Alright, so that is why atmosphere is an important component of the biosphere. Alright, so the other important component will be lithosphere. Fine. So in technical terms, lithosphere is that part of the earth that is solid. Alright, so it contains the earth crust. See, earth has layers. There is crust, there is mantle, there is core. Okay? So if you are talking about the hard part of the earth, because such layers of the earth, they are also liquid in nature if you go towards the interiors of the earth. So we are talking about the surface layers of the earth which are solid in nature. So that is the earth crust and also the outer mantle. So they both combine and form the lithosphere. Lithos means stone. Alright, so that is the hard part of the earth. Now why it is important? This part contains the soil. Okay, the soil which is essential for the plants to grow. The plants cannot grow in the air, fine. So they need a surface. The animals, they need land, okay, for their habitat. So it provides a platform and habitat to the biotic elements. So that is why lithosphere is also an important component of the biosphere. Alright, next is hydrosphere. Now hydrosphere, it is the most important essential part for in terms of the biotic elements to exist. Okay? Because we need water. 60% of us is water only. Fine. So it is the most essential part of the biotic elements. Almost all the organisms have more than half of their constituent as water. Okay? So that is why it will also be an important part of the biosphere. Okay, so we have understood that we are talking about the biosphere. Biosphere is where life exists. Now for life to exist, we need atmosphere, lithosphere, hydrosphere. These are the important components of this biosphere which are essential to provide the essential nutrients that are needed for these life forms to exist. Fine. So we have studied in detail about the biosphere. So biosphere we have understood very clearly. So these are those areas where life forms are there. These life forms are not uniformly distributed. There are areas where there is no or very less life forms, and then there are areas where there is rich diversity. There is richness of these life forms. Alright, so now we'll move on to the next topic. So the next topic is biomes. Fine, so now we'll talk about the biomes. Now in this biosphere we can do some major subdivisions. Okay? So if we see that there is life, we can say that certain areas support certain type of life. Okay? For example, if you are talking about an area which has lot of rainfall, okay? So that area will have lot of trees. That will be a forested land, because lot of rainfall will result into having lot of trees, so you will have forests. So if there is an area where there is no rainfall, there is zero rainfall, or there is very very less rainfall, about 25 centimeter, 10 centimeter of rainfall, then those areas will have desert like conditions. Fine. So, and they will have life forms with respect to their area. Okay, so if you are talking about a rainforest that is having 250 centimeter of rainfall, they will have trees, they will have lot of animals, because lot of trees, lot of plants. Okay, so that means lot of food for the animals. Okay, so there is a diversity of animal or life forms that are present there. Fine. If you are talking about a desert like area, so in this land there will be lesser plants. So lesser plants means lesser food for the animals to exist. So we will see that there are very less life forms that will exist in certain areas. So now in this biosphere only we divide certain areas. These are very major divisions of the biosphere. Alright, so if we divide this biosphere with respect to the dominant vegetation, what kind of vegetation this land has, what kind of weather conditions are there, what kind of life forms of plants and animals are there, then will form a biome. Okay, so this is the definition of a biome. Now let us understand by the definition. These are major subdivisions of the biosphere, each recognized by the characteristic structure of its dominant vegetation. So generally it is the dominant vegetation from which we define, and why there is such a certain vegetation there exists, it is based on the climate and the weather conditions of that area. Fine. So that is how we will divide the biosphere now into biomes. Alright, so the Earth's biomes are spread over millions of square miles. They can even span entire continents. Alright, so there are very major divisions of the biosphere. Now each has unique climate. Fine, we've talked about this. They will have a certain type of climate. For example, they will have rainfall, such and such rainfall. Alright, there will be certain weather conditions that will determine the boundaries of a biome and the abundance of plants and animals found in each one. It is the same thing that I have explained you before, that if you are talking about a rainforest, okay, that is a rainforest because there is a lot of rainfall. It will have certain plants and animals that will exist. If you are talking about an area that is receiving very less rainfall, it will have a desert like condition. It will have lesser life forms. Alright, now biomes pertaining to land are called terrestrial biomes, and that pertaining to water are called aquatic biomes. Alright, so we are dividing the biosphere on land, that means we are making terrestrial biomes. If we are dividing the biosphere on the basis of water in oceans, okay, that will be your aquatic biomes. Fine. So first of all, we will talk about the terrestrial biomes. So what are the different types of terrestrial biomes? You will have forest, grasslands, desert and tundra. Fine. Then there is aquatic biome. You have freshwater, transitional, marine and mangrove. So these are the different types of biomes. Okay? We have studied there is terrestrial and aquatic. In terrestrial only we have certain different types of biomes. Alright, so first we'll study the forest. So if you talk about the forest, there are certain different types of forest. Alright, so it is not like that if you see a lot of trees, it is the same that you see in India and it is the same that you see in Canada. Fine, so there can be a forest land in India, there can be a forest land in Canada. But if you see the trees that are present there, or if you go to Africa where there is rainforest, okay, if you see the trees in a rainforest and you see trees in India, they will have differences. Okay, so that is how we are now further subdividing the forest areas. We are understanding that if there is a forest that is in a colder region, so what are the trees that are existing there? And if there is a forest which is in a hot region, that means that they will have different types of trees. Alright, so first of all, the first forest that we will study is the equatorial rainforest. Alright, so what is an equatorial rainforest? See, the name suggests equatorial rainforest. Equatorial means it is present near the equator, fine, around near the equator, and also it is a rainforest. That means there is ample amount of rainfall in that region. Alright, so it is found near and around equatorial regions characterized by ample rainfall. Ample means lot of, okay, rainfall throughout the year. Now it will have now a different type of trees. You will see the differences in these forest areas. Alright, now the trees, because of the rain, okay, they have lot of nutrition, they have lot of water, So these trees are very tall. So the trees are very tall, they have great variety of species. All right, so the variety of species is there because it is a rainforest. The trees are tall. The trees are also tall because there are a lot of trees. We are talking about variety of species. So if there are a lot of trees, every tree will fight for sunlight. Okay, so in the in the meantime, what will they do? They will increase their height. They will adapt to that area. They will increase their height so that they get more sunlight. So they are fighting for sunlight. That is why they are very, very tall in nature in these equatorial rainforest, and nutrition is very well there. Fine. So that is why they are well fed in terms of food. Now vegetation is very, very dense. There is little light reaches the forest floor. So we are talking about that there is variety of species. There are lot and lot of trees. So if you see that from above the surface, okay, so you will see that there are a lot of trees and you will only see the green area, the head of the trees, that is known as the canopy. You will only see the canopy, which is very rich tree area. All right, and the sunlight, it does not really reaches the surface of that area because lot of trees are there, very dense canopy. Then next is most plants are evergreen. What is evergreen? Evergreen means they do not shed their leaves because there is no dry season. Fine. The trees shed their leaves because to actually protect themselves during the dry season, because there is lot of transpiration through the leaves. So what they do is they shed those leaves in the dry season and they regrow them. Fine. But in these areas, what we are talking about, these equatorial regions, you must have studied in geography that equatorial region, why they do have so much rainfall. There is a reason for that. All right. So now these areas, they are having trees which are evergreen because they don't have to shed their leaves because they have 24/7 rainfall. All right, so there is uniformity in temperature around 28-degree temperature, and there is well distributed annual rainfall around 150 to 250 centimeters. That is very high level of rainfall in these areas. All right, it has rich biodiversity. How? See, we have said that there is variety of trees. So if there are variety of trees, that means variety of food available for lot of animals. All right, so all these animals, they are dependent on the variety of food that is available. So that is how these areas also support rich biodiversity. Lot of animals will be there. Now Congo Basin, these are the areas which have these equatorial rainforests. This Congo Basin, it is present in Africa. Then there is Amazon rainforest, which is in South America, fine, mostly in Brazil. Then there is Indonesia, Malaysia. So these are all the regions which have this equatorial rainforest. Okay, now you can see this on a map. Now first of all, on a map you should understand what are the areas, the regions, fine, where are all the continents. So first of all, I will tell you about the continents a little bit, fine. So this is Asia, this is Europe, this is North America, this is South America, this is Africa, African continent, this is Australia. All right, and below there is Antarctica. Now these are all the continents. Now we are talking about this equatorial rainforest. Now equatorial rainforest, what I told you, they are present in and around the equator. Now this is equator, this is the 0-degree latitude. Now this equator, it passes through all these areas. You should remember this, from which countries equator passes. This is very important for you, because from that knowledge, see, UPSC will not ask you that does equator pass from these countries. I mean, they may, but they will not. What they will ask you that, for example, they have given you certain area, certain surroundings, and they are explaining those surroundings to you. Now they are asking you to guess which country would this be. Now if you don't know whether this country is present in and around the equator, and if you don't know that whether it is in the tropics or in the temperate region, how will you identify the features? For example, there was a question that this area has tall trees, ample amount of rainfall throughout the year. That means they are talking about the equatorial rainforest only. Fine. So that is how you must tackle this examination. You should be very smart in your preparation, because if you are thinking of reading the books, there are lots and lots of books and you won't be able to finish anytime soon. Fine. So you can take 3, 4, 5 years even. There are a lot of books available. Now the thing is how to be smart in your preparation. Only do that which will increase the chances of you clearing the prelims, the mains and the interview. Okay, focus your preparation on clearing this examination and not graduating, because you are graduates. Okay, so in graduation the thing was entirely different, your mindset was entirely different. You have to cram up all the things to pass the examination. Now in this it is a very tactical, logical type of paper. Fine, for this you need a different altogether mindset. All right. Fine, so we'll be back to the equatorial rainforest. Now see this is the equatorial line. Okay, fine, this is that line. Now it is passing through the South America. Now in South America this is the Amazon rainforest that we talked about. Fine, here this is the Congo basin. Congo is actually a river. It passes through a lot of countries. There is Democratic Republic of Congo. Fine, there is Congo. So there are a lot of countries here, 5-6 countries from which this passes, this equator passes. Alright, so it will have the Congo basin, the rainforest here. Then there is Indonesia and Malaysia. So there is Malaysia, Indonesia. So these are all the islands there. They will also have the equatorial type of rainforest. So what my point is, now if you see this entire region, it is having a similar kind of vegetation. Fine, so the dominant vegetation here is trees, similar type of trees. So it is forest, so it is a biome. This area is a biome. It's a forest biome in terms of equatorial rainforest. All right, now this knowledge is actually very important for you for geography as well. All right, okay, now next type of forest will be, now we'll move towards the tropics. See, this is the equator. Fine, and if you move towards the north as well as towards the south from the equator, you will reach the tropics. Tropic is 23.5 degree. Fine, these are the 23.5 degree latitudes in the north as well as in the south. In the north, that is the Tropic of Cancer. In the south, it is the Tropic of Capricorn. Fine, so now we are moving towards the tropics and we are seeing that what type of vegetation these tropics have. Okay, what type of forest, because a lot of areas have forest. So we will cover all the forest based on the latitudes. Now we have studied this equator, we'll move towards the tropics. We'll also move toward the temperate region. Fine, so we'll see where all on earth these forests are present. Okay, so a different type of forest is there. Now we have studied about the equatorial, now we'll move towards the tropical deciduous forest. Now deciduous means that they will shed their leaves. This means that the area, the region where these trees are present must be having a dry season, because only then the trees will shed the leaves. Alright, so these are found in areas that have distinct dry season and wet seasons. Okay, so they have very good rainfall times also, and they also have times when there is dry season, there is no rainfall. All right, so these type of trees are actually present, these type of forests are actually present in the Indian subcontinent. In the Indian region, you will see certain type of tropical deciduous forest. They are also known as monsoon forest, because see, monsoon is the time where India receives the maximum amount of rainfall, and the rest of the year it is almost a dry season. All right, so such forests are mainly found in the Indian subcontinent and are also known as monsoon forest. So let us see in this diagram. All right, so this is the Indian subcontinent. When we talk about the subcontinent, we'll also talk about the neighboring countries. Okay, we talk about Myanmar, we talk about Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. So these also come into the subcontinent, fine, Nepal, all these areas. Alright, so these are the characteristic features of these forests. The Indian forests are tropical, mainly tropical deciduous forest. It is not like कि India do not have evergreen forest. It also have evergreen forest. If you see the western ghats of India, fine, they have a lot of rainfall. They have around 200 centimeter of rainfall, okay, and which is actually distributed very well throughout the year. So these have evergreen forest. So, but these areas are very less as compared to all the other forest areas that are present in India. So if you say that the dominant vegetation, the dominant type of forest in India are tropical deciduous forest. Alright, so these are those areas. Now the forest is mixture of trees and grasses. See, in the equatorial rainforest, we said that the trees are so much that they are fighting for the sunlight. So it is filled, the canopy is very dense. Okay, but in India, if we say, the trees are not very dense. There are spaces in these trees, so it is like the light actually reaches the surface of the earth in these areas. Fine, so if it reaches the surface, what will grow there? Grasses, shrubs and all these things, they are present there. Fine, so we will see distant trees and you also see grasses in between. So these are the types of forest that are present in India. Alright, so what are the special varieties? Okay, and also one thing, trees are comparatively shorter and widely spaced, fine, and fewer species. See, in the equatorial, the trees were very tall. As I said, that they are so much in number that they are fighting for the sunlight, so they have to be tall. But in India, there is ample amount of sunlight, fine, so the trees are comparatively shorter. If we compare with the equatorial rainforest, the trees in tropical deciduous are smaller, they are widely spaced, fine, and there are fewer species. There are not many species because there is dry season, fine, so the evergreen forest will not be sustained there, fine. Major species in these areas, in these forests are teak, sal, bamboo, sandalwood, and all. There are many more species that are present in India. So why we are mentioning these are very valuable timber. Okay, so their wood is very valuable in the market, so they are also exploited very heavily. Okay, they have durable hardwood. It is used for making the furnitures. So we have mentioned these varieties. Now majority of them have been cleared for agriculture to support growing population. As we know, in India, majority of the forest have been removed so that we can start agriculture there, so that we can feed our population, the ever increasing population, fine. Alright, so this is about the tropical deciduous forest. Deciduous means these trees, so when the dry season comes, they will shed their leaves, and again when the rain comes, they will grow it back. Okay, so these are deciduous forest. These are present in the tropics. Alright, so equator was going somewhere here, fine. This is where the equator passes, and tropics are somewhere here. So these are in the tropics. Alright. Now the next is temperate deciduous. Now if you go above this, alright, so it will be in the mid latitudes, higher latitudes. That region is known as the temperate region. Alright, so now we'll see the temperate deciduous forest. Now these are also deciduous forest, which means that you are moving towards the colder regions to find out what type of forest they have. Alright, and also they are deciduous in nature. Deciduous means that they will also encounter dry seasons, and in those dry seasons they will lose their leaves. Alright, now they are found in areas with milder, shorter winter season. So the winter season is short. The biome occupies eastern half of United States and large portions of Europe. Okay, so eastern half. So as I mentioned, so this is your equator, this is tropics, fine, and this is the temperate region. Okay, and this line, this line is the 66.5. Okay, above that you have the Arctic Circle. Alright, so this region, we are talking about this temperate region. So we said it is Northeast America. Okay, we said it is in the eastern half of United States. Fine, and large portion of Europe. Here you can see that this is United States and this is Europe. All right, this is Europe. So if somebody asks you that what is the dominant vegetation of Europe, it will be temperate deciduous forest. All right, so that is the dominant vegetation and there, and in the eastern side of USA you will find the same temperate deciduous forest. Okay. Now what are these trees? These are hardwood trees. These are also very valued. Okay. This contain beech, maple, oak trees. Now the maple is that significant tree that has this kind of shape. It is also present on the Canadian flag. It is from this maple tree only. Okay, it is the leaf of the maple tree. In autumn, actually, in Canada, you see the maple tree, the leaves become orange in color, fine, and they shed their leaves in autumn. So in autumn, it is all filled with this beautiful leaves there. So this is the maple leaf. Okay, now this maple tree, these all are deciduous forest. Fine, they shed their leaves in autumn. Now the canopy. The canopy is that if you see from the top, how many trees do you see? Are they evenly spaced or there is very dense canopy? Okay, so canopy is moderately dense. Okay, allow the light to penetrate. So they are kind of similar to the tropical types. Okay, because not much rainfall is there, so it cannot sustain lot of trees there. Fine, so canopy is moderately dense. Okay, number of species is far more limited. Large areas dominated by single tree species. So if you talk about in terms of biodiversity, so equatorial will have the most. Then if you move towards the tropical deciduous, it will have lesser because lesser trees, lesser variety. Then if you move towards the temperate, it will have lesser variety of all these species of trees and animals. Fine. Now average temperature is 15 degrees Celsius. It has freezing temperature at night. Rainfall is around 40 to 150 centimeter per year. Okay, so this is the characteristic of all the trees that are present in those areas that have temperate deciduous forest. Okay, so what are these areas? This is USA, this is Europe. So most of the Europe have these type of trees. All right. Now there is another type of tree now. So boreal trees are somewhere here. Fine. So if I draw this line here, so they are at around 50 to 60 degree latitudes. So from 50 to 60, that means in the temperate region. So these have the temperate. In the temperate only, if you move more towards the poles, okay, that will have the boreal forest, or they are also known as the taiga forest. Okay, they are also known as taiga. These are the largest terrestrial biome. Okay, in this land there is entire belt of trees, evergreen trees, which is very magnificent in terms of that we are moving towards very colder regions. They are evergreen trees, they are not shedding their leaves. Okay, so this is that belt of evergreen boreal forest. Now these forests represent the largest terrestrial biome. Why we are saying the largest? See, in this is that region that we are talking about. Fine. So this black, in black you can see it is very dense, it is evergreen, it is throughout this belt. So this entire belt has trees, okay, the same type of coniferous trees. So that is why they are called the largest terrestrial biomes. All right, now they are present at 50 to 60 degree north latitudes. They are broad belt of Eurasia and North America. This is Eurasia, this is Asia, this is Europe. Together they are known as Eurasia. So there is a broad belt, this is America. Fine. So there is a broad belt of Eurasia and North America, 2/3 in Siberia, rest in Scandinavia, Alaska, Canada. Fine. They have short summers and long, cold, dry winters. Winters can last up to 6 months. The trees are evergreen. That is the most important thing here. The trees here are evergreen forest. That means they are not shedding their leaves because they have adapted to those cold temperatures. This is an example of the greatest adaptations that trees and animal species they have when they are actually present at some extreme environments. Okay, because we are saying these areas they experience winters for up to 6 months. Okay, so these are very cold regions. So if we are talking about these regions, if they are having evergreen forest, that is a very good adaptation. Now they have conical shaped leaves. So these conifer trees are basically those characteristic Christmas trees. Okay, you have drawn these trees in your paintings, right? Okay, these are conifers. They have conically shaped leaves and they have adapted to the cold. Okay, they actually don't have to lose their water, they store them, and they are very good in terms of sustaining those cold winters. Alright, the forests are dominated by conifers, spruces and fir. These are variety of the conifers. Precipitation is in the form of precipitation. What kind of weather is there? There is mostly snowfall in terms of precipitation. There is low biodiversity. Okay, because to survive in such extreme conditions, you will not have much of the trees which can actually adapt to such cold temperatures. Fine. Many mammals hibernate. The mammals have also adapted. Okay, so they have adapted to such cold environments. They can actually hibernate to up to 6 months, and then they can wake up again and continue for the short summer season. They can hunt, they breed, okay, and then they go back to sleep. Now birds, they migrate generally to the south in such winters. So this is actually the characteristic feature of that Siberia. If you have seen that in your any Net Geo or Discovery Channel. So the Siberia, they have conifers, and these are the major tree species that are present there. They are evergreen, that they do not shed their leaves because they have adapted to the cold environments, and also they have very low biodiversity. And this is the largest terrestrial biome, taiga or boreal forest. Okay, so this is the belt. It is in the Eurasia, entire Eurasia, and from Alaska towards this Canada. Okay, so this is about the boreal forest. Alright, so in the terrestrial biome we have studied about the forest. So forest, the types of forest. So from equator to the poles we have moved. Fine. And in between, what kind of forests are actually present? What are the types of these forests? What kind of trees are present there? We have studied about all that. Alright. Now we'll move on to the next terrestrial biome, that is grasslands. So next biome is grasslands. So we'll study about this terrestrial biome, that is grasslands, in our next video. So keep watching our videos. All the best.